Don't just live for tomorrow, or just live in yesterday. Just be glad for all you have that's in today. And though you've come through many obstacles.
Hey everyone, Connie here, and welcome to my blind reaction to Season 3, Episode 3 of Harley Quinn. So we've kind of just been setting things up. We've been getting everything going and kind of building on this season pretty slowly, which is interesting because this season's going to have like less episodes than the first two. Excuse me. But that makes me wonder, it's like, why are they taking this so slowly? Because if it's going to have less episodes, you would think they would be taking it faster, that it would be going more quickly because they have less time. But the first two episodes, it's like, first episode basically reintroduces us to everything. Harley and Ivy, what they've been doing since the end of Season 2, and kind of just reuniting everyone afterwards. Gordon is running for mayor, just kind of like catching us up. And then episode 2 is pretty much entirely about Ivy gaining confidence as kind of the new leader of the group, at least for this current mission of terraforming Gotham. So a lot of the episode didn't really progress much. It again was more about Ivy's character and learning to come into her own in a way that works for her, to find that confidence and to build up, to work on herself as a person, which is great, and I loved it. And there was a lot of fun stuff in the episode with the Bat family and everything as well. But like overall, it didn't progress much. I mean, honestly, the most progressing thing that it did was at the very end by, evolving Frank. I keep using, like, the Pokemon terms because that's kind of what it makes me think of. It's the most... I know evolution isn't just Pokemon, but that's the idea I was going for with it. But that's the most progression we've actually had with anything, because nothing about the plan actually progressed. It was just Ivy telling the crew what the plan is, and then having to worry about how she's going to lead and, messing up a little bit on the way. Nothing actually really moved forward at all. There's also this subplot about Bane that just didn't work for me. As much as I do enjoy Bane in this series, it's like that subplot was just unnecessary. There is one other thing of progression it did make, and that was having the lair fall apart. The mall ended up just crumbling, and it's no longer around. Bane was going to blow it up, but it ended up just kind of collapsing because of Ivy's serums, and so yeah, they don't have that layer anymore. I guess they're going to need a new one. So that's going to be interesting to see if that comes into play. I assume it has to. Like, they need a new layer, right? So what else are they going to do? They already played with this though in Season 1, like with the idea of like finding a layer and everything. So I don't think they're going to just repeat things with that. I don't know how it's going to go though. Are they just going to find like an apartment or something, sort of like how it started with Ivy's apartment, or are they going to have to do something different? I genuinely don't know. But I'm pretty interested to find out, to see where that goes. But yeah, there wasn't really a lot of actual progression in the episode. And so it's like, again, I'm wondering, like, what are they going to do to make this, like, suddenly start going a lot quicker? Because it's going to have to. It's going to have to take some turn at some point in the season and really suddenly start going really quick. Otherwise, I just don't see how they're going to do much this season. And if this season does end up being like a very minimal season with very little happening, I mean, I guess that's okay, But for a season 3, I just don't feel like that should be the case. When you're in the third season of a show, shit should not be slowing down like that. Like the first or second season, you can do that with. But when you're at the third season or beyond, it almost feels unforgivable to do that. Because it's like, this is the point in the series, no matter how many seasons you end up planning for, this is the part in the series where things should be kicking into high gear. And I know seasons 1 and 2 like already had some pretty exciting, intense stuff, but like it should be going heavier than ever. That's kind of like the idea with how things progress among seasons. Again, no matter whether you have 3 seasons or 6, doesn't really matter. Like you should keep up that momentum. That's how momentum works. It keeps building. It doesn't just stop, because that halts the momentum. That's not what you want to do. But if this is a slower season, as long as they make it good, I guess that's what's important. But I don't know. I'm a little worried, admittedly. I just really hope this doesn't take too much of a downturn, and I really hope that they do start to bring it back and really start to ramp this up again. And by the way, I want to make it clear, I'm not saying that the first 2 episodes were bad. They really weren't. They were pretty damn good. But, again, it's just, I'm worried with the episode, with the number of episodes this season has. I just feel like they need to, like, not take this slow. But we'll see. We will see. So, when the screen fades to black, pause this redirect and go to the description below. Follow the link to the reaction, and after you watch it, come back here to the redirect and resume play. Because after it fades to black and then fades back in, everything from that point forward will be my afterthoughts and will contain spoilers to the episode. So, that being said, thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you at the reaction. And we are back, and we'll begin with spoilers in 3, 2, 1, now. So I looked up pictures of Billy Bob Thornton, even when he was younger, because, I mean, he's obviously older and everything now, has gray hair and everything. Yeah, the version in this episode looked absolutely nothing like him in any way, at pretty much any point in his life. Like, it was extremely inaccurate, which is weird, because a lot of the, like, you know, celebrities and stuff, real life people who have been in this looked very accurate. James Gunn looks accurate. Howie Mandel in season 1 looked very accurate, and so on and so forth. Yet for some reason, Billy Bob Thornton looks literally nothing like him. Like, not in face or anything. And it's just, it's weird. Like, I know, even if you want to say, like, oh, he's, like, styled up to look like Thomas Wayne or something, it's like, okay, that's going to be like the hair, maybe the hair color and everything, clean shaven face, fine, but the face doesn't look like Billy Bob Thornton at all. So that's why I didn't even realize that was him at first. It didn't click with me, because it's like, it doesn't look a thing like him. But that's a minor issue, obviously. I'm not like holding that against the episode or anything. So this was my favorite episode of the season so far, on one hand. On the other, this did even less to progress the season than any other episode. The only thing it did to progress the season was the fact that, okay, Harley and them are, or I guess maybe even were at this point, because who knows if that's even going to continue to be a thing after what they did. Mostly Clayface, but is that they were living with Catwoman, or at Catwoman's place now, while she's staying with Bruce. That is the only thing that even slightly progressed anything with this episode. Everything else was a random distraction. It had nothing to do with anything. And in the end, even though Harley and Ivy won, they don't know they won. Joker took the award anyways. They don't even care at that point about winning that anymore. It's like Harley's kind of like lost interest, basically. Um, it just basically became pointless in the end. It was a pointless distraction that did nothing. Honestly, the Clayface stuff was, you could say, a little more important because it was at least progressing something that it worked on before. It was at least following Clayface's story that's currently going this season, working with the James Gunn film and all. Even though he's just been acting as, the director's chair, but still. But it's like, nothing about this actually progressed really much of anything. Like, the stuff with, like, Ivy learning to just stand by Harley no matter what and everything, it's like, she would have learned that anyway. Honestly, it just didn't seem like anything that really needed to be done. If I'm really honest, like, these episodes have been progressing Ivy's character, and I'll talk about that in a bit. And I love what they're doing with her character, but it didn't really add anything that progressed the story. That's all I'm saying. In the long run of things, you could take out this entire episode, and I'm sure the rest of the season would not be affected at all. Unless something in this episode comes back in a massive way, it's not going to affect anything, because it's nothing here progressed anything. It doesn't come across as important. Again, unless something in this does end up coming back later in a big way that I'm just not prepared for and I just cannot see happening right now. Which is possible. It is very much possible to be surprised like that, but I can't see a way that that's going to happen currently, at least. But now let's talk about all the reasons why this is my favorite episode of the season so far, despite not progressing anything and continuing to concern me over how this season's going to go. Ivy is the star of this season without question. So far, at least, Ivy shines. Like, this is a series named after Harley Quinn, obviously, but I think the decision to, at the end of episode 1, to show the title and then add "and Poison Ivy" at the end was not just a great choice because of them being together now. This season is very clearly Ivy-centric. She is the star of season 3. And at least so far with these first 3 episodes, she has shined so fucking bright and is becoming, honestly, one of my favorite characters. I liked Ivy before this, very much so, but this season has done wonders for her because it's actually built more for her character. I mean, prior to this, Ivy was still great, but the developments we've had in this have been phenomenal for her. One, we're actually touching on Ivy's social anxiety in a big way in this season, and especially in this episode. It's developing her in a way that, honestly, we just have not done before. The social anxiety was definitely hinted at in the previous seasons, especially during her relationship with Kite Man. It was definitely hinted at. Like, they made sure you knew that she had a little bit of social anxiety, but it was never really strongly presented. This episode, it's like, I'm getting emotional because I see myself in it. That's really fucking weird that this series is making me emotional. I've talked about it before, but I have social anxiety. Despite being an extrovert and loving to be in social situations like parties or conventions or whatnot, I'm actually very socially anxious. I tend to be very quiet, even when I'm, like, with family, like at holiday gatherings and stuff. I tend to be very socially awkward and socially anxious to the point where I have a hard time speaking to even family members, and it's wild to think about. And for a long time, I was really bad with it. Like, really bad. To the point where it's like I could barely even hold a conversation. And just being in public situations scared the shit out of me. Even though I liked being in them in general, they scared me because I was afraid of people talking to me. And like when Ivy's like talking about like she's trying to ignore people because she doesn't want them to ask like whose dress she's wearing and everything. It's like obviously I've never been in that exact kind of situation, but it's like I felt that so hard. Just the idea of avoiding conversation because you're not wanting people to ask you about things, not wanting people to pry into things like that. It's like I have done that. And I used to do it pretty much any time I was in any kind of social situation, including conventions and stuff that I liked. It actually took years of going to conventions, hosting panels at conventions with friends, doing YouTube and stuff like that. That actually it took years of that to break me out of my shell, even as much as I have broken out in that time. Like I'm still socially anxious. I'm still very socially anxious. I still have trouble with that. I can barely ever initiate a conversation. When I'm at conventions and I'm doing like my cosplay music videos, when I have to ask someone to if they would like to be in it, if I could get some footage of them and everything, it scares the shit out of me every time I have to ask. And it's like I don't even know why. I can't explain it, but it leaves me so freaking just exhausted because of it. And I'm only getting better, obviously. I'm like improving on that, but it's hard. It's hard. And there's a lot of times when people will come up to me and randomly start talking to me or ask me something or whatnot, and it's like I dread those moments. Again, I'm actually a surprisingly social person despite this. I love being in social situations. I love going to parties and conventions and all that. Yeah, I'm afraid of people. And so seeing Ivy be the same way in this, and her saying like I'd rather be at home working, is like kind of the same idea as me saying like I'd be more comfortable being at home watching stuff or playing games or something. Even though I like being in those situations, again, it terrifies me. So seeing that connection with this, it genuinely like really hits me. And it makes me love Ivy that much more, and it makes sense for her. Like it connects with her character. Everything works. She values plant life a lot more than human life, and there's very few people that she's ever been able to connect to. Harley being one of the few. And we've seen in the past that she said even that she doesn't like humans, typically. So it's like this has all been built up. It's not just some new character trait coming out of nowhere. It's all there. We just haven't delved as far into it as we have been this season. And on top of that, her conversation with Kite Man's new girlfriend and everything, and just their coming to an understanding of each other and connecting and everything was so fucking beautiful. Like genuinely beautiful. It's moving, and it's like that's why I was like saying hell yeah at the end. Again, even without noticing, even without realizing, I was just saying Kite Man's catchphrase, which I realized when his girlfriend said it. I said it simply because that was the moment for me. That was just so powerful and beautiful and well handled. And Harley and Ivy at the end just admitting to each other their faults through the evening, how they were messing up, and how Ivy wanted to now be there for her no matter what. even if it made her a little uncomfortable. And Harley coming to terms with and admitting to Ivy that she was doing this just because she wanted to have it for herself, to kind of get back at Joker and everything, and that in reality it doesn't mean as much to her, and that she'd rather just be with Ivy because she's her true prize. It's like these two, like, they're communicating, and every good relationship requires communication. It's not just something that makes a good relationship better. It's not something that is, it's not something you could just say like, oh, it would be good for a great relationship. It's required for a great relationship. If your relationship does not have good communication, it's not a great relationship. It's not. Good communication between partners is a necessity. It's just something that needs to happen. And it can happen in multiple ways. It doesn't mean you have to like constantly need to share everything with each other. Sometimes good communication can be silent communication. Just knowing each other enough to be able to know what each other needs, what your partner thinks of a situation, even just with a look. Like, they could look at you and you know exactly what they're thinking. That's still communication. It's just done in a different way, but it's still communication. So, and also this gave us some more representation. This series is already obviously super queer positive, like Harley and Ivy. Obviously, you can't have that without being queer positive. But on top of that, now we have full-on confirmation that the Riddler is gay. I think it might have been confirmed by the people who work on the show, the staff, before. But it was never directly confirmed in the series until now. So there had been a lot of, like, people kind of theorizing on that based on the way Riddler acts in this series. And, yeah, again, now we got our full-on confirmation. And he is dating Clock King. Like, he actually has a partner. And that's really fucking cute, actually. They were actually super cute. Like, the two of them actually really have good chemistry, despite, you know, not knowing how to kiss each other because of Clock King's head. I think that's actually really cool that they did that. Not only just, you know, having them be gay with each other, but also the fact that they are super fucking cute together. That they actually put effort into making it believable. And not just seem like a random extra bit of inclusion. It's believable, it's real, it was well handled. Hell yeah. On top of that, we also had some resolution with Kite Man. We got to see that he's moved on from Ivy. He's not holding a grudge against her or anything. There were some people theorizing that he could be a villain, and you know what I mean, like an antagonist for Ivy and Harley in this season, out of like some level of a grudge against them for the end of season 2 and ruining the wedding and his relationship with Ivy. But no, he's moved on and he's happy and he deserves it. It was made a very big point in this episode that Kite Man is just, he's the fucking best. Like, he is absolutely fantastic. And even just the stuff we heard about in this, like with the chili, it's like, I don't think that was ever mentioned in the previous seasons, but apparently he makes this chili that's also pretty damn good, apparently. And it's like, I've had really good chili, so I can imagine. But he took out the meat every time he made it for Ivy, and now that he makes it for his new girlfriend, she doesn't like onions, so even though he loves onions, he takes it out for her. That's absolutely beautiful. Kite Man deserves the world, and I'm so fucking happy that he's happy. Like, that is such a good resolution after season 2's ending. So I am so fucking, like, happy with that. Also, his girlfriend is super fucking cute. Like, I love her design, I love her outfit. Her powers are cool. But also, just in terms of her character, she's really fucking adorable. And so it's like, I am so happy for Kite Man and her. It's absolutely beautiful. And obviously there was some good humor and action in this episode too. I mean, that's just kind of what you come to expect with this series. The humor was ridiculous in some points, like Cock King and everything. It's like, come on. And then the dude with the gun for a penis, it's like, really? And the fact that it drooped like that, it's like, oh my god, that's... I hate laughing at a penis joke, but it was actually funny. Especially with how disappointed he looked as he walked away. It's like, everyone has performance issues once in a while. It's like there was obviously some really dumb humor. But that's Harley Quinn, and that's kind of the charm of the series. And the action was great. The stuff with Harley fighting the robots and everything was fun. It was really entertaining. Bane was in this as well, and he had a smaller role in this one than last time. And honestly, he was better in this. Even the stuff with Clayface and Billy Bob Thornton and James Gunn and all was good. It was enjoyable. And that's the biggest thing I could take away from this episode. It was fun. It was exciting. It was cute. With Harley and Ivy's outfits, it was super fucking hot. Like, I'm not going to hold back here. Harley and Ivy's outfits were fucking fire. Like, those outfits were just super hot. I'm really into them, and I've already been into these two. Like, I'm already super gay for these two, but seeing them in these outfits, it's like, oh my god, like, oh my god. So yeah, it's like there was so much that this episode gave, and even though it does have some negatives, even though there are some things I can find wrong with it, and even though it doesn't progress really anything that I can tell right now, I loved this episode. Actively loved it. It was phenomenal for Ivy's character. It gave us resolution to Kite Man. It had a phenomenal display of good communication in a relationship. It was fun. It was awesome. It was beautiful. It was just a really fucking good episode. And again, my favorite of the season so far. That could very much change, and honestly, I very much hope it does, as always. I want to continue to be impressed, and I want to continue to have more episodes impress me enough to become my new favorites, obviously. But this was really damn good for me. And again, and I would say the positives do outweigh the negatives here. Very strongly, especially because of the personal connection I had with Ivy here. Like, that alone sold me on the episode completely. But all the other stuff as well, it's just like, the only thing I'll say is that watching this also makes me super fucking jealous, because I wish I had a relationship like Harley and Ivy's. I wish I had a relationship at all. And that kind of happens every time I see a relationship in anything, pretty much. Especially one that I really am, like, super behind. Like Harley and Ivy's here. It's obviously, I've always been a huge Harley Ivy fan. Even well before this series was conceptualized. Pretty much since Batman the Animated Series. Like, I grew up with that shit, and Harley Ivy did start there. So it's like, yeah. I've always been a huge fan of theirs. So it's, and even with other shows too. Like, obviously there's plenty of other shows with relationships I really get behind, like Mary and Suzura in Kakegurui Twin, currently reacting to and everything, and stuff like that. And it's like, I am jealous of those relationships, but I also love watching them so fucking much, especially the gay ones, just because, you know, being queer and everything myself, it's kind of a bias I have. It's just like, I just love seeing people in love. It is one of the best feelings in the world to me, to see people in love. I absolutely adore weddings because of that. I hate funerals, because funerals make me really sad, and I hate being really sad. But I absolutely love weddings, and I just love love. So seeing two people or just two characters in a show showcasing love for each other, or even if it's just a ship that's just has a lot to back it up, it's like, yeah, I'm super into that. And if it's characters I really love already, and it's like, if the ship or actual romance is done extremely well, it's like I get full into it. And this is one of those examples. Harley is, it's the best. It is absolutely wonderful. I love seeing it. I love everything about it. I want to continue to love everything about it in this season. And it's like, and I hope that they continue throughout the entire season. I hope that they continue to be as in your face about it as possible. Like, I know some people might not like that. I know some people might like, oh, why do you have to be so in your face about it? Why can't you just have it be natural? Why do you have to be like rubbing it in your face every single episode? Like, oh, they're a couple now. They're constantly fucking and they're constantly kissing every episode. And it's like, because they fucking deserve it. Not just the characters in universe, but everyone who made this series a possibility. Everyone who worked on it. The voice actors, the directors, the writers, and everyone who has been following these characters since Harley's inception in, I believe, 1992, the same year I was born, I believe, when she debuted in Batman the Animated Series. And from the first time that she and Ivy were shown together in the series, working together as a team and everything, it's like, this has been something that we have been working towards, to show these two in a genuine, healthy, loving relationship on a major series, a major DC Comics animated series. It's like, we need to be like flaunting it. Like, this is deserved, this is earned, this has been decades, literal decades in the making. Like, flaunt the shit out of it. I don't want that to stop this entire season. I'm completely serious. Like, next season they can calm down on it. But this season I want them to kiss literally every single episode. I want them to talk about how much they fuck and everything constantly. I want them to be the gushiest, lovingest, beautifulest, awesomest, gayest couple possible the entire time. It's like, we have been waiting for this for decades. We have been wanting this series for decades. This is exactly what this needs to be. And in a time like 2022, where queer relationships in animation and stuff is a lot more like possible, we need to like look at this stuff and we need to flaunt it. One day we'll get to a point where it can just be seen as natural, and where we can just integrate it into where it's not a big deal. But we're still at a point where, while it's more acceptable, it's still very much looked down on by a lot of people. And a lot of companies are still very questioning towards putting it in their content. A lot of companies still are having to tone shit down and even canceling shows for shit like this. So we deserve to flaunt it. And that's not just for animation, that goes for any media, and for just people in general. For any of us in a queer relationship, any of us who just are queer in general, we deserve to flaunt this, because we're still in 2022 in a time where too many people are still against us. So we deserve to be as loud and in your face as we can. And I think that we should be. So, yeah. I want to see the entire rest of this season be as lovey and gushy and gay and just beautiful as this. Sex positive, not just queer positive, but sex positive. Because, God, we need a lot more sex positivity than we got. Like, it's weird that there's almost kind of more queer positivity in media these days than there still is sex positivity. It's like people still think of sex as like this big taboo, and it's just, we need to stop that. But this show doesn't give a fuck. It's like they're freely open about talking about fucking. Even if the higher ups wouldn't let them show Batman eating Catwoman out, it's like there's still going to be a lot of talk about fucking and basically showing it. Like at least showing Harley and Ivy naked on a bed together, even if they're censored, quote unquote, by money. It's like, God, that was still very hot. And even like the porno scene it showed, like everything before you realized it was a porno scene, it's like, oh, okay, we're going here. It's like before I realized that was a porno scene, it's like this is getting steamy, like shit. I'm into it. So yeah, it's like I'm really excited about this series right now, and it just from this episode. And I really hope it continues to be like this. So, tell me in the comments below, what did you think of this episode of Harley Quinn, and season 3 specifically? And, like, tell me just your thoughts on where this season might be heading. If you know anything from future episodes, if you know any spoilers, no spoilers. Just, I'd love to hear thoughts, just general thoughts and everything. And I believe season 4 is practically confirmed already, so hopefully that does end up continuing to ramp things up and everything as well. But again, as long as we get stuff like this, it's like I'm happy. For now, though, I'm Connie, and I'm signing off. See y'all next time.